Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Krupka. I'm a chiropractor and a functional medicine specialist, and I'm also the author of the book 6 Simple Blood Tests That Can Change Your Life. Today we're going to talk about overtraining. This is a lecture I did recently for a good friend of mine, Dr. Daniel DeWalch, down at his office, Spine and Sports Therapy of Houston. Their website is fixmysportsinjury.com in case you're interested. But I spoke to a group of athletes for him, and at the end he asked if I would please put it on video form, so that's what this is. This is not your regular discussion of overtraining, however. I take a different approach to this. Overtraining, you have to understand, is basically an equation, or you're looking for balance between damage and repair. So I'm going to put up here, I want you to get this. You have damage and repair. Now, if these are equal, you generally do pretty well. If you get into a situation where the damage is greater than the repair, that's when you have overtraining going on. Now, that's a very basic concept. Most people, even though they may not have looked at it quite that way, most people understand that if they're athletes and if they're concerned about overtraining. So, obviously, we're aware that you can increase damage by doing too much exercise, the wrong kind of exercise, doing certain exercises back to back on certain days. There are lots of issues with that. That's the discussion you normally hear. How to stretch out or schedule your exercise so you can maximize the amount of exercise you do in a given period of time, but not maximize the damage. That's half of the equation. Today, we're going to talk about the other half of the equation, the side of the equation you don't normally hear about when you're talking about overtraining. We're going to talk much more about repair. So, what we want to get to, we know what increases damage. I'm not going to go over all that. We want to talk about repair. So, let's say for a minute your workouts haven't changed. You're doing the exact same amount of damage that you used to do, but you're not recovering the way you want to. You're finding yourself getting into an overtraining situation, but you haven't increased the damage. Well, you're probably decreasing the repair, or at least not supporting proper repair. So we're going to make a list of things that can cause trouble with repair, that impact your ability to repair, and that you can use to tilt that equation in the favor of repair. All right, and we'll talk about when you need to do that. So, first of all, a list of things that impact or decrease your ability to repair. There's nutrition. Okay, if nutrition's not good, you're not going to repair well. Imbalanced hormones, so let's just put hormones. All right. Now, along with hormones, those cause inflammation when they're not right. We also have another source for inflammation, and that's food sensitivities. Wrong word. Okay, toxicity is another thing that can impact that. And although it kind of falls under hormone, I'm going to make it separate. Blood sugar control. Okay, now that's a list of items that can have a significant impact on your ability to repair, that side of the equation over there. So let's talk about each of these in more detail so you have a sense of what I mean. Let's hit nutrition first. Now, if you don't have proper building materials, raw materials available to do the repair, even if your body is asking for repair and trying to get it done, it's not going to happen properly. So first of all, let's talk protein. Most everybody that does regular exercise has run into the advice that you should be taking more protein. I'm not going to dispute that. If you are breaking down muscle tissue, you have to have enough protein to repair the muscle tissue. More importantly than protein, and this is going to change your thought process a little bit, you have to have a full complement of amino acids to repair the muscle tissue. So protein, if it's animal-based or animal-derived, is going to have a full complement of amino acids. If it is vegetable-based or grain-based protein, you are going to be lacking some of those amino acids. You also have to understand that when you're taking your protein makes a difference. If you're taking your protein before or during the exercise, you're probably going to want to take amino acids. Immediately after the exercise, you may want to take amino acids. A little bit after that, you may want to take an easily absorbable whole protein, like whey protein or something along those lines. Then later on, you might want to eat what I call a mixed meal, a meal that has protein in it in more of a whole form. Each of those has differences in how quickly it gets into your system, how quickly it's delivered through the bloodstream, and how it impacts the repair in the muscle tissue. So meeting with someone that understands that can help guide you where you need more work. But protein is not just throw down a protein powder within 30 minutes of your workout and you're done. When we're getting into overtraining situations, we're talking about 2-a-days or putting on ridiculous amounts of mileage or a short period of time to build strength or rehab from an injury, in which you normally look at that time frame and think, you can't really do that. But you've got to magically make it happen. You've got to change the way you do some of these to maximize the effect of it. Just simply eating more protein is not going to do it in that situation. Okay, so that's protein with the nutrition. Good, clean fats. Do not underestimate the value of good quality natural fats. Coconut oil, olive oil, pastured butter, avocados, egg yolks, all of the good, naturally occurring, unprocessed fats do wonders to calm inflammation and give your body the right kind of calories and the right kind of blood sugar control, we'll get into that in a second, to really be able to repair and function appropriately. Now, this also gets into your ability to perform, not just your ability to repair. Minerals, sorry, I don't have the list up here. Minerals are also important. You know about minerals and electrolytes if you're a distance runner or a triathlete or someone like that. But even if you're not doing distances like that, minerals are important along with vitamin C to create whole complex vitamin C that actually builds collagen. Collagen is the elasticity containing fiber that makes up a lot of our connective tissue. A lot of that has to be repaired after certain workouts and certain events. So minerals are important. Calories. I can't tell you how often I get people in that are doing certain types of workouts or certain types of events, and they come in and they say, I'm not recovering well. I get 2 or 3 days into my week and I feel like I can't work out anymore. They aren't taking in enough calories. Many times people will grossly underestimate the amount of calories they need to sustain the performance they're asking their body to go through. So be aware, calories can be an issue, especially when you don't get enough of them to be able to repair. You don't want your body taking calories and saying, well, I don't have enough calories to do everything I need to do, so I'm going to put some of them here and some of them here and some of them here, and nothing really gets done completely. All right, so obviously don't overdo it too much, but don't short yourself on calories too much. If you're trying to lean down before a competition or something, there are other ways to do it beyond just caloric restriction. All right, so don't sell yourself short in that respect. A couple more vitamins I want to mention. Vitamin D, very important to controlling inflammation, absorbing the minerals, getting your immune system to work properly, keeping you from getting sick. That's a classic overtraining problem. And I don't know when you're watching this, but I'm creating this at the end of January. So everybody just ran back to the gym because they made their New Year's resolutions, and they hit the weights and the classes and everything really hard, and they're motivated and they're going to get it done, and then they end up getting sick. They overtrained themselves to the point where their immune system didn't function properly. All right, keeping enough vitamin D in your system can help to some degree guard you from that effect. Right? There's nothing worse than being gung-ho and really motivated, and you got your new gym membership and all the fancy new clothes, and you got the new songs on your iPod, and now you're sick and you can't work out. Right? I mean, that's bad. So get your vitamin D levels up where they need to be. Vitamin C, I already talked about how that impacts your ability to form collagen. That's important for repair. And iron. You don't want to be anemic when you're going through this kind of stuff, especially for the female athletes that are menstruating throughout their workout cycle and their event cycle throughout the year. You have to make sure that you have enough iron status that you don't become anemic. That will suck the life out of you, and that's instant overtraining almost no matter what you're doing. So avoid that. So that's nutrition. Let's move on to hormones for a minute. First hormone I'm going to talk about is growth hormone. I'm not saying you got to shoot up a bunch of growth hormone, but you have a couple of times, 2 in particular that I'm going to talk about, where your body makes a fair amount of growth hormone. One is while you're sleeping at night. Now, generally speaking, you want to get to bed or fall asleep roughly between 10 or 11 o'clock at night. A couple hours later, your body has this release of growth hormone. It lasts for a little while. You wake up the next morning, you've done some significant repair, you're ready to start over again. Growth hormone is important for that. If you're not going to sleep until 1 or 2 in the morning, you've missed it. You're not going to get it there. If you're eating a bunch of sugar before bed, that will stop your growth hormone from releasing. In some cases, insulin response, which comes as a byproduct of eating the sugar, can slow your growth hormone release. So be aware of those issues. At least get the growth hormone at night when you can. All you have to do is sleep, right? Not much about this whole repair and damage schedule is as easy as getting some sleep. If you don't sleep well, go see your functional medicine doctor, get that under control. It will make a big difference for you. So, growth hormone. Now, the second time you make it, after a very heavy workout, if you're into doing the HIIT workouts, the interval training workouts, if you do weightlifting stuff, leg day, or if you do plyometrics, those are the quintessential days where you're going to produce a large amount of growth hormone in response to the workout. So be aware of that. That's another opportunity for you to get some growth hormone release. Adrenal hormones. Cortisol, it sets up your sleeping and waking patterns, so it impacts the growth hormone we just talked about. Being sympathetic dominant or parasympathetic dominant without being able to switch back and forth appropriately, those are all related to adrenal problems. Your adrenal glands also produce aldosterone, which has a lot to do with how you absorb and maintain your mineral status. We talked about minerals under nutrition. So adrenal glands are critical to whether you're able to balance the rest of your hormones and whether you're able to repair and respond appropriately to your workouts. Thyroid imbalance. For those of you that have ever had a thyroid problem, you know it can absolutely crater an entire season for you unless someone can get that under control. So make sure your thyroid hormones are well balanced. It takes more than just a TSH to tell you that. You can go watch my thyroid hormone videos on YouTube to get all the information on the tests you need, or you can get the book 6 Simple Blood Tests That Can Change Your Life. There's a whole list of what's in a complete thyroid panel in there. That even tells you how to interpret it and how to ask your doctor for it. But get your thyroid hormones balanced or this is not going to work. Testosterone. Men and women can be deficient in testosterone. It's more obvious in men. There's another video on YouTube that I did about understanding how men produce testosterone, how to know whether you've got low testosterone or not, and whether or not you need testosterone replacement or you just need to rehab the systems that produce testosterone. That's probably a very important video for you to watch if you feel that testosterone deficiency might be an issue for you. And then menstrual hormones. If you're cramping and bloating and have all kinds of moodiness and problems, water retention around your period, you're not going to perform well. You're not going to repair well. You're going to be physically and emotionally distracted from your goals. You've got to get your menstrual hormones under control. You should not have cramping and bloating and tenderness and clots and tissue and moodiness and water retention. Those are all abnormal symptoms. They're common, but they're not normal. So if you're suffering from those kinds of symptoms, get your female hormones under control or you will not be able to perform up to your full potential. Okay, you will be frustrated by that long term. So menstrual hormones have to be brought under control. Let's talk food sensitivities for a minute. There's a reason I say sensitivities, not allergies. There are some very technical differences between a food allergy and a food sensitivity. Food allergies are bad. They can give you problems with your workouts. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about here. Food sensitivities, simply having an immune reaction to your food. I go through a much more in-depth discussion in the differences between food allergies and food sensitivities in a video I did on testing for gluten sensitivity. Okay, it's not all about gluten. I do go through a discussion of the difference between a food allergy and a food sensitivity. It has to do with the antibodies that are involved. So be aware of that. It's not just food allergies. Now, if I'm eating a food that makes my immune system respond, okay, and the common ones, dairy, grains, soy, sugar is a food to which most of us are sensitive. It doesn't always cause an immune response, but I'm lumping it in here because it is something that should be avoided along with the rest of these, okay? So I know I'm going to get a bunch of comments on sugar's not going to be a real food allergy. I get that. I'm putting it in here because practically speaking, you need to avoid it just like you're avoiding the other food allergies or food sensitivities. But that constantly promotes inflammation. It distracts your immune system. It keeps it from focusing on healing. It can promote autoimmune problems. It can trigger autoimmune responses. And it definitely taxes the adrenal glands, which takes us back up into hormones. So it's bad news. So discover what your food sensitivities are. Avoid them like the plague, and your performance will go up a whole nother level when that happens. Toxicity. This is going to be a little bit vague, right? Toxicity can come from lots of different places. Understand, though, obviously we have environmental toxins. You're familiar with that. That's somewhat obvious. I live in Houston. Let's be honest, the air here, while we don't always have to chew it, it's not the cleanest. And in most major cities, you run into some of that. Even if it's good, clean country air, there are still pollen and stuff like that that can bother you. So we take in toxins from the outside world in our water, in our food, in our air. We get it from all over the place. I mean, there's off-gassing from the walls when you build a new house or you're in an office. There's carpeting. There are things at the gym that off-gas, all the rubber mats and floors. We get it from our environment. But we also create internal toxicity. I call it metabolic exhaust. Each of those cells in your body, when it's running and producing energy and doing things, it creates waste. It creates exhaust. That has to be filtered out of your body. Lactic acid is one example of that most of you are familiar with, but there's a whole list of metabolic exhaust products that have to be cleared out of the body through the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, the intestines. That all has to happen. If you're doing a lot of working out, a lot of exercising, a lot of competing like this, you will build up a lot of exhaust, and you may well overwhelm your ability to get rid of it. Periodically cleaning that out, pushing those mechanisms, making sure you have all the nutrients necessary to clean out that exhaust and toxicity can really go a long way toward improving your performance and allowing you to recover more quickly and more effectively. You can take antioxidants during and after your workout. I'm not going to go through a full list of them here. You can contact me if you want to get that. But antioxidants can help buffer a lot of that exhaust right during the time when you're doing the workout and doing the event. So, along with the amino acids that you may be taking, consider taking some antioxidants with them. That can make a big difference in how much exercise you're able to tolerate before you get to a point where you cross that line into overtraining. You also have to watch for added chemicals, things you don't need in your sports products. In your sports drinks, your replenishment gels, different protein powders, all the weird colors and fillers. And I mean, if you're drinking something that's glow-in-the-dark blue, there's stuff in there you don't need. All right, now, does that cause you a problem or not? It all depends. But it's something you don't need that your body has to deal with. Why bother putting it in? You are looking, if you're looking at an overtraining video, you are wanting to become an Indy car, not a diesel farm truck, right? The diesel farm truck can put up with a lot. It can be low on oil, and it can have coolant problems, and it can run rough, and the filter's not right, and it'll still basically get the job done. But an Indy car is a fine-tuned machine. That's what you're trying to become. So just don't risk it. Don't put stuff in you don't need. Okay, so watch out for those things. Blood sugar control. Bear with me. We're near the bottom of the list here. Poor blood sugar control is very inflammatory. It jacks with your insulin levels. It changes your cortisol levels. It messes with your energy production. It'll mess with your performance. If you're familiar with bonking partway through a race, a lot of times that's poor blood sugar control. Now, I'm not going to give a sweeping recommendation for all athletes here, but many of my athletes are converting much more to a paleo approach, using fats for fuel, proteins for replenishment, and not relying on carbohydrates as their main fuel source, or not relying on, definitely not relying on refined carbohydrates for a main fuel source. That's not right for everybody. It depends on your event. Depending on what you've done in the past, you know what you can tolerate and what you can't. But if you're having issues with that, consider switching to a different fuel source, or at least consider buffering the sugar that you get with protein and fats so that you don't have this spike and crash phenomenon that's going to create, like I said, insulin and inflammation, poor concentration, ADD and ADHD issues, inflammatory problems, energy consistency issues. Let me put it that way. So consider paleo diet, low refined carbohydrate diets. Those are becoming more popular. Your fruits and vegetables become your carbohydrates. So consider it. Look into it. If you're familiar with the Paleo Diet already, there's a book called The Paleo Diet for Athletes that goes through pre-workout, during workout, post-workout, pre-event, stages during the event, stages post-event, and what you would use if you're treating this paleo, which is basically fruits, vegetables, meats, nuts, seeds, and eggs, how you would handle those. It might be interesting reading for you, especially if you've got blood sugar issues to begin with. Okay? So understand this is basically all about balance. Go back to that original equation. Yes, your exercise can induce a lot of damage, but there are definitely mechanisms you can work with to increase your repair ability to balance that out. This is all about balance. Okay? So if you can preempt an increase in damage by increasing your repair mechanisms a week or two ahead of time, if you're a college football player and you know that two-a-days are coming up, well then, or an event's coming up where you've got to run, I have crazy patients that'll do a sprint triathlon and then the next day they do the full-length triathlon, right? So if you're going to do something like that, a week ahead of time, really start pushing the repair mechanisms so that when you get to your event, you do the first leg of it, the first half of it, the first day of it, you are better able to recover before you go into the next day or the next portion of the event. So you can preempt this by getting that under control. So that's a discussion of overtraining, hopefully the side of the equation that you haven't heard addressed before. If you need help with these issues, find a functional medicine practitioner or a sports nutritionist near you. Some of your more astute, I don't want to call them running coaches because it goes beyond that in a lot of cases, but performance coaches, let me put it that way, will understand enough of this to get you much farther down the road. And if they run into an issue, they'll probably have a professional that they can send you to for deeper evaluation, lab tests, and whatnot. But find someone that can get this under control for you, and I can almost guarantee you will see the benefits in your ability to repair, your ability to perform, and the amount of exercise you can cram into a given period of time. And that's really what a lot of us are looking for. So that's my discussion of overtraining. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it made a difference for you. Please feel free to leave me comments with your experiences or questions you have about this. I will do my best to answer your questions as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.